I'd like to welcome everybody to Climate Reality Project DFW chapter, our February 2023 meeting. If you haven't been here before, if this is your first time in a meeting, we would greatly appreciate if you would raise your hand either physically or virtually and say who you are and maybe why you're here. Anybody brand new, this is their first meeting? Or if that's intimidating.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Larry.
Hi, this is Larry Howe. I'm a volunteer with Citizens Climate Lobby, and I've connected recently with Alex and know Michael Martin and some others. So I just wanted to kind of join in and see if we can cross-pollinate.
Great. Larry, are you going to the CCL Lobby Day in Austin next month?
Yeah, I'm actually on the policy organizing team for that function.
Okay, I might be talking to you soon.
Okay.
Good. Anybody else who's first time fresh climate reality people? Raise your hand or just speak up or say something in chat. Okay. Well, we will move on then. We might try this again in a few minutes if more people come on. Our next item, while Alex is doing the land acknowledgement, I will paste the agenda into the chat. So it's a pretty robust agenda. So Alex, if you would please.
Sure thing. We at the Climate Reality Dallas-Fort Worth chapter acknowledge the ongoing harm caused by colonialism and white supremacy perpetuated in Texas. Indigenous communities have suffered genocides and forced removals from their lands. We recognize that we are all standing on land stolen from Indigenous people, particularly those of the Kickapoo, Wichita, Tawakoni, Humanos, and Comanche in the DFW areas. We are committed to cultivating mindfulness around the history of Native lands and communities through continuous education, participation, and active listening.
Thank you, Alex. Simon, can you talk about our community ground rules? I can put them in chat if you need me to.
I got it. I'm
okay.
Good. So as always, our rules here for our meetings are to make space or take space. Please limit your comments to 2 minutes each so everybody has a time to share. Speak from the I perspective instead of generalizing. Practice active listening and seek to understand. Assume good intentions. Respect one another's space, time, and interest. Be willing to be uncomfortable. Be open to productive discomfort. Remember that intent does not negate impact. Disagree without discord. Personal attacks and labeling have no place in our chapter. And accept that there are no quick fixes for the issues we discuss.
Thank you, Simon. Beth. Beth is our Creatives Work Group chair, and she wants to talk to us for a few minutes.
Yes, we like to start with an opening contemplation, and today's contemplation rests in the word honor. Webster defines it as high regard or respect, adherence to principles considered right, acting in integrity. For Indigenous peoples around the world, honoring is a powerful path. It is a way to be part of the whole, to live in right way and in harmony with the earth, self, other, and all. Today, we contemplate all of the ways in which we honor, individually and as a collective, who we are, what we speak, how we are environmentalists and activists, how we live and take action for the planet and all. We also take a glance at the ways in which we do not honor earth, self, and all, so that we may learn and grow and expand our skills and abilities. Today, we honor ourselves, our gifts, our abilities, our actions on behalf of our planet. We take this moment to honor earth, self, other, and all. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Okay, power up. This is actually an announcement, but we've moved it to the top of the agenda. But Alex is going to tell us about a climate reality training coming up. That sounds very, very interesting.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, sorry, everybody. I have to leave early today, so I wanted to make sure that this gets done. But just to let everybody know, Big Climate Reality is going to be doing another Power Up training in April. It's going to be around the IRA, so how to leverage the Inflation Reduction Act. I'm really excited for it because they're going to be talking about, they're going to also provide opportunities to learn about your state specifically and how you can encourage your representatives to leverage the act. So it's going to be all about how we can use the monies and the policies that have been set aside in this act to help make sure that, emissions are reduced, environmental justice is being done, those kinds of things. It is virtual, so exciting for everybody who maybe can't necessarily get away or travel to Las Vegas or wherever. So it is virtual. They are also looking for mentors. So if you are already a trained climate reality leader, they need as many mentors as they can. They think this is going to be a really big training. So please apply. I'll drop the application link in the chat if nobody's done that yet. Yep. So I'll do that. But this is for already people who have already been trained, as well as those who have not been trained with climate reality yet. So if you are not officially a trained climate reality person, this would be a great opportunity to be able to do that. You'll get your green ring, all of that fun stuff. That's exciting. The format of it, like I said, it's going to be virtual. And most of it is actually going to be on demand. So there will be pre-recordings that you can look at kind of on your own time from I think it's April 6th to the 20th. I'm trying to find the agenda, but I can't find it. But basically it's
April 6th to 20th. Yes.
There we go. Yeah, I was right. So it'll be April 6th through the 20th, and you can access optional interactive sessions from April 10th to the 16th. There will be 2 required broadcast sessions that will be on April 11th and April 13th. They're about an hour and a half each. And then on top of those broadcast sessions, there will also be opportunities for you to meet with your mentor group. So you'll be kind of in a group with an assigned mentor. And I think there will be like 1 or 2 group discussions that, will be kind of based on everybody's schedules. If you were virtually trained like I was back in 2020, I think it's going to be kind of a similar setup to that. So please apply if you are interested in learning more about the Inflation Reduction Act or want to become a trained climate reality leader. If you have already done the training, please consider applying to be a mentor. I know they need a lot of help. I applied to be a mentor, so would love to have DFW be a good, solid representation at this. If you have any questions, I'm going to drop this in the chat. Like I said, I have to leave around 10:30-ish, but if you do have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat as well, and we'll go from there. Thanks.
Thanks, Alex. Good. Well, before we get into our work group updates, we're going to do work group updates and announcements. That's the bulk of our meeting today. Every other month, we talk about what the committees and work groups are doing, so you can get more involved and be aware of the various options that are available to you to participate. We have some very busy months coming up, so I think you'll hear some very exciting things. But before we do that, let's introduce, we have an executive board that was elected at the end of last year. There's been a few changes, and we also have some working group chairs that are on the call today. So if we could, let's go around and just sort of say who you are and what your position is, either on the executive board or with a working group. So I'll call on Amy first, and then if you'll just pass it on to the next person, that would be great. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Amy Hunt, and I'm the publicity chair. And I also right now I'm working on writing some more content for the website, which we just had a new blog post go up tomorrow. So if anybody has any ideas for things to write for the blog, just give me a shout. I'm going to pass it on to Alex.
Thanks, Amy. Also, you want to drop your email in the chat so people have it in case they want to shout you out. But hi, everybody. My name is Alex. I'm the co-vice chair of the chapter. I am also the faith-based working group leader. So if you are interested in really learning about either of those things, you got my email from earlier. But now I'm going to popcorn it over to Simon.
Thank you, Alex. I am the chair of the chapter. I previously served as co-vice chair with Alex and with Leah before that. And right now I'm largely doing stuff a lot of behind the scenes, but I'll be more active and like more front facing in the coming days. Yeah, let me pass it over to Beth.
Hi, I am the chair of the Creatives Working Group, and I'm also the education chair this year. And soon we're going to be starting to do some presentations on how to expand and improve our communication skills and that resonance, that unique resonance that we all have. And I will pass it on to, gosh, Richard, I think I'm going to pass it back to you. Oh, Pradeep?
Yes,
Go
hi.
for it.
I'm Pradeep Vundela. So I am a tech and web chair. So anything related to so technical stuff, whether it's Discord or website. So you can reach out to me. I will drop my email. Let me see. And I'll
You're
pass.
a chair or an executive person, raise your hand so people know who to call on.
Yeah, I think Richard is one who left out. I don't see Jim Notman. I don't see Haley. Chip.
Hi, I'm Chip. I'm an executive committee member, at-large member, available to help on anything that I can help with. Traditionally, I've helped on strategy, advocacy, and just trying to unlock ideas.
Jeffrey, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Jeffrey Pulis. I'm chair of the Community Building Self-Care Group, and I'll be having some announcements later. I put my email in the chat. And who else? Raise your hand if you haven't spoken. In
Molly?
Michael.
Molly,
Michael.
Oh, Michael.
Okay. Michael Lind, co-director with Mark Dambro of EcoActus, and we're committed to giving leaders the tools to transform their organization to regenerative strategies. Who's next? I'm looking to see.
Molly Rook.
Can we get Molly?
Hi, I'm Molly Rook, and I am the interim chair of the Energy Working Group, which is working primarily on our first project, Greening Dallas ISD, and I will talk more about that later. And I'll put my contact information in the chat.
Okay, did we leave
Lauren?
anybody?
We need Lauren.
Yeah, where's Lauren? There she is.
Hi, my name is Lauren Cole. I'm leading the anti-plastics group, so kind of focused on cleanup events, and I'll give some updates here later in the call, but nice to meet everyone. I'll put my email in the chat too.
Did we miss anybody? Good job. Well, I'm Richard Wayne. I'm the events chair, and I help organize these meetings and do some events, which I'll speak about, some really important events coming up in Earth Month I will talk about in a little while. So Before we get into the work group updates, did anybody join us who this is their first meeting and would like to say hello and why they're here? Just sort of pipe in or raise your hand or chat or whatever works for you. Okay, good. Well, we will move on to creative spaces. We're going to do the work group updates now. So these are the work groups that we have. And if there's not a work group that meets your fancy, you could start your own work group in your area of passion related to climate and environment. So we have about 6 updates today, and there's other work groups, but these are the ones that want to give some current events. If you're interested in starting a different work group, just let us know, and we'll be happy to help you do that. So we have Esther piped in through chat. Thank you, Esther. This is her first meeting. She just moved from Seattle and happy to be here. Wow, we've had some people flee to Oregon and New Mexico and Arizona, but now maybe some people are coming back. We need your votes. So, John.
Met Esther the other day too, and she's great. So super excited you're here, Esther.
John Hill, first time. He's pretty busy. Renewables, good. Well, Molly's going to talk a little about renewables with Dallas ISD, but a lot of the work we do relates to renewables, and Michael Martin is also an expert in renewables. So let's start our work group updates, and then we have some announcements. So we have work groups, and then we have committees. So there's an event committee. It's just an operational committee. Work groups are teams of people who combine over a shared passion to get a specific sort of task done. So the first work group update is Beth for Creative Spaces.
Yes, good morning. This is really a blend of creative spaces, community building, and education. We're bringing in a speaker, an eco-artist by the name of Lori Marshall. And she has developed, it's next Saturday, the 25th at 10 o'clock in the morning via Zoom. And Lori has created a project called The Singing Tree of Climate Solutions. And I'm fascinated with the project and its potential. Boy, whenever you bring creativity, community building, and climate in one unified force, that's what it is. It's a unified force. So I wanted to bring her in to share this project with us. It is for parents, teachers, families, adults, kids, artists, environmentalists, anyone who wishes to create something with others that is earth and environmentally centered. Her project began with a comment that an 8-year-old girl made when she said, "Wouldn't it be wonderful if the whole world made a painting together?" And so Lori teamed up with a teacher to create this Singing Tree mural. And it is designed, people start working on a mural, and then the next group of people come in and pick up where they left off. And it holds positive messages about the earth, environmental action, and where we're headed. Lori says each mural, and there are now 115 of these murals made by 21,000 people from 52 countries. How's that for community building, the community of all of us who live on the earth? Lori says that each mural envisions a positive future to community challenges. It sparks innovative action through a playful process of co-creating together to help transform heartbreak into beauty and action. So she's going to be talking with us about the project next Saturday, 10 o'clock. I'm going to put my email in the chat. If you're interested, send me your email address and or email me and I will send you a Zoom link. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. EcoActus team, formerly Business Working Group. Michael, I think you have a few things to say about the climate boot camps coming up this year. You have an ambitious schedule.
Yes, we do. We have, first I'll let everybody know that we have trained 3,000 people so far with the climate boot camp, and we're setting our goal this year to train 5,000. And I'm going to end by asking for a little bit more help on that. We've got a wonderful team, as I said earlier, co-directed by Mark Dambro, and it's been a really good effort from this chapter, so we really appreciate it. We've had some highlights this year. It's now been fully used as a university course at TCU. We're working with a group from junior colleges for distribution in junior colleges. We're working with one that's been very exciting to me, NECI, which is the National Extension Climate Initiative. Those of you who know the extension centers in the Department of Agriculture that are supported by over 50 land-grant colleges around the country, they are looking at EcoActus as the training, and they are joining us in creating new tracks, technical tracks on regenerative agriculture, water, and oceans. And we have contribution now from our Climate Reality team in Lisbon that's got Blue Oceans working with us to create the part on oceans. So we're having new material that we'll be developing this spring to launch next fall. And we're beginning to get other organizations engaged in that process. I'd tell you very quickly, let's see, there's some assistance we would like to ask for if there are people in the chapter that are willing to help us. First, referrals to other organizations. We are getting a number of organizations interested in the training because the training is free and it continues to get very good reviews from people, and it can be customized to fit a particular organization very easily because it's done in modules. So if you know an organization that could benefit from the training, let us know, and you might help us present it to those organizations and extend the audience that we're reaching. So think about the organizations you're in, and you know that you would recommend this too. In terms of help from people, we would like to have somebody volunteer to be a coach for video recording. And that would be about 6 recordings. And you're doing things like watching what's being done to make sure the lighting is good, that the sound is good, that people are paying attention to the timelines that they have. So if there's somebody here who would be willing, we think we'll do about 15 new material recordings this late spring. If somebody's willing to help us with that, we'd appreciate having one more coach. Second, we need a speaker manager. Each of the speakers we send one letter to, and we ask them to send us back a written release and to send us a bio and any recommendations they have for links. We need somebody to manage that process. The letters are written, the releases are written. It's really a matter of, once we've invited the speaker, making sure that we get them the letter and we get back a release. So if somebody would help us manage speakers, that would be great. We need a writer to help us summarize the new track material. These are not long written pieces. They're a few paragraphs at a time, but you need to listen to the video, summarize it so we can put it out there on the e-workbook. Then we need some help with the e-workbook input. And this is both creative help, finding artwork that illustrates what we're doing that we can put out on the e-workbook to illustrate the message, but it's also actually getting the links into the specific e-workbook. And finally, we're looking this year to start working on some fundraising. We would like to get some money for marketing and a little bit of tech support. It's not a lot of money, but if you've got any suggestions or know anybody with experience in fundraising, I will tell you that's a pretty much of a blank in my personal background. So if you have any suggestions of that, I put my email in the chat, and I'd like, if you would like to do some work on this, we could appreciate some help. So I'd like to thank y'all. I have to say one other thing. I want to thank Beth, particularly for her introduction. Beth and I share an interest in Native American philosophy and history. And I was asked to do a TEDx on what did we learn from the climate boot camp. And when I thought about what I learned, it's really about the need for us to respect ourselves, respect each other, and respect all living things. And that comes, and I relate that, Beth, to what you were talking about, honoring. It's a feeling and an emotion. And if we respect each other and respect ourselves and respect the living environment, we will fix the problems that we have to deal with. I'm absolutely convinced of that. So thank you, Beth, for that introduction. And thanks everybody on this call who's helped with Climate Boot Camp.
Thank you, Michael. I'm a graduate of Climate Boot Camp and I can highly recommend it. So hopefully you'll get your 5,000 attendees this year. It's well worth the time.
I should have mentioned one other thing. We will be showing it every other month. So it'll be posted under EcoActus and it's really open to anybody who wants to take it.
Okay. Lauren, you're going to talk about the anti-plastics working group. Plastic seems to be everywhere, in our trees, flying around everywhere, everything and everywhere. What's going on?
You said it. Yeah, I mean, relating it back to honoring the land in a way. You know, my goal for this group is really to focus on cleanup efforts. So we've had a few in recent months that I want to just give this group an update on. At Post Oak Reserve, actually kind of near Seagoville, there were 2 cleanup events, one in December, one in January. That's an area along the Trinity watershed. So the way that came about was Dallas County Parks and Open Spaces reached out to us along with Texas Conservation Alliance. So they had put together this event and ended up getting about 30 volunteers for each. So the stats are, we cleaned up over 7,000 pounds of trash, filling up several dumpsters. So really a great cleanup effort on behalf of those organizations. So happy we could partner with them, and we want to keep that relationship going and hopefully get some more cleanup events throughout the year. So yeah, I want to just kind of offer some cleanup events. Obviously, there's a ton that go on throughout the Metroplex already with local organizations. So I'm hoping for this group to just kind of compile that into a calendar, maybe share it on the website. I think it's important, you know, some people are looking for ways to volunteer, and this would just be an easy way of, hey, there's a bunch of cleanup events already happening. And then I'd like to highlight one per month for our group to kind of, you know, focus efforts on and try to get a good draw of people coming out. So yeah, the cleanup events were really successful and hope to continue that. And then beyond that, you know, since I'm kind of new to the organization, oh, Michael has a question. Michael Martin.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. Didn't mean to interrupt you. You could keep going, but my quick question is just about you know, another aspect of the plastics is just, I think about packaging that we get when we go anywhere. For instance, Celebration Restaurant the other day, wonderful package. You open it up and it says, in 90 days, I will be soil. So I was curious if that's part of the activity and action from this working group is to focus on that aspect of replacement of packaging with biodegradable, compostable materials. So thank you for commenting on that.
Yeah, And that's really what I was getting to. So I'm looking for some help in that capacity, just to kind of brainstorm ways that we can work on the reduction aspect of, you know, reducing our consumption of plastics in the first place. And, you know, there's a lot of great legislation out there in California with single-use plastics. And so I just want to focus efforts on trying to brainstorm ways to impact legislations on a local level. So looking for folks like yourself and anyone else who's interested to brainstorm those opportunities. Maureen has a question now. She's got her hand raised.
Yep. I'll unraise it in a minute.
Yeah.
I know when I was doing plastic cleanup from the creeks about 3 or 4 years ago, I discovered that the Texas Supreme Court had made it impossible for individual cities to ban single-use plastic. Is there any, and I sent them pictures of plastics that I'd gathered from the creeks and congratulated them on their far-seeing, you know, being British, you have to get sarcastic, but polite, right? Are there any moves to try and change that legislation? Because I believe at that time there were at least 5 cities that had passed single-use plastic, you know, whatever you call them when cities do that. Did you?
I'm not familiar with that, but yeah, I think I would love to open the conversation and do some more research with people like you and just see how we can work around that. I think what you're referring to, I think it was 10 years ago that there was a ban on bags, and the plastics industry came back and made that impossible. So I think that was specific to bags. So I feel like there's some opportunity for other plastic packaging and, you know, straws, things like that, that we could maybe look at into.
Thank you. And not to be self-promoting, but I have some art pieces that are anti-plastic that I'd be glad if they're useful to you at all to let you have.
Awesome. Well, I'll put my email in the chat again, but yeah, looking to kind of organize a more formal group. So this is really great. It sounds like there's a
Lauren, may I ask a question or make a point?
You may have
I think she's frozen.
But why don't you?
I'll go ahead, and on the assumption she can hear us, but is having temporary.
Oh, there she's back.
Oh, okay. Lauren, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. May I make a point or question?
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that I've been encouraging in a lot of different organizations I'm involved with is, you know, just, and it's especially relevant, you know, to things like the IRA, you know, and we surfaced some of these issues, you know, during Amy's presentation, but it's just increasingly clear to me that, you know, in the next few years, with legislation like the IRA or the state legislation in California and New York shifting to EVs by whatever date, EU, same thing, it's really helpful to have just one-pagers. And I was heartened to see that, you know, Conover is doing that with the Power Up training. For all of the thematic areas that we're now focusing on, you know, whether it's renewables or transportation, I think it would be very helpful. And I'm not volunteering to do it, but I can edit it. I'll be happy to do that. But, you know, I mentioned somewhat half jokingly in the chat, we could actually get ChatGPT to do some of this for us, really, to do the first draft. Just have a one-pager. Plastics is an area where there's been a lot of confusion and complexity built in by the industry, false PR efforts, et cetera. You know, just on things, and it's the same thing with oceans, for example. And, you know, people don't realize that if they don't have the right kind of plastic, it won't recycle, right? Despite the misleading claims. So the sorts of initiatives that Michael just referenced with Celebration and getting that knowledge into the minds and hearts of businesses, consumers, so that people are actually going to be results oriented and take action that's not only, you know, performative and feel good, but actually will make a difference at greater scale. My concrete suggestion is that, we could pioneer using extant materials that are out there, and maybe using some of these AI assistants to get, really refined drafts. One-pagers under our resource page on key areas like transportation, renewables, plastics, taking into account the Texas and the DFW context and the obstacles that we face, which are kind of unique here or in some other states that are, politicizing this issue unnecessarily. And just give the basics, just pulling it together in a one-pager, this is what is actually recommended as a practical, concrete action for groups, individuals, businesses, as basics on this issue. Because I don't think we have that right now on our website, and it's just not as available as you would think. It's in different places for different organizations. I'm going to recommend the same thing to the Sierra Club. A good friend of mine, Ben Jealous, is the new president of the Sierra Club. I'm really excited about that. He's going to bring some fantastic, much needed leadership and clarification to overcome some of the dysfunction that's plagued that great organization the last few years, and hopefully getting them back on track. But just as William Conover is doing, I think we could do that at our local and regional and state level and make a really high value added contribution. So that's just a suggestion. Plastics is a great area, but same thing with areas like renewables, getting the assistance of our experts in those areas, transport, which, we have, I think, growing interest in. So that's just an idea that I propose that you may want to consider taking up, Lauren.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And so much of it does come down to behavior change. So if we can come together as an organization and just kind of offer a one sheet on ways to reduce your consumption, ways to, recycle where it's available, that sort of thing. So that's definitely a great suggestion. Thank you. Michael has his hand raised, but you're muted.
Yep. Last question, and then we'll move on to the next work group. Go ahead, Michael.
Just I want to mention how important it is on all of these, not just plastics. I'm doing this with my homeowners who over poison the grounds and over manicure the grounds. I get a response back that says, oh, we can't go to electric blowers. They don't have a large enough charge. I go back and get the detailed information off the web, and I'll be presenting that to the board tomorrow with a request that we update our agricultural approach to our homeowners groundkeeping. It's one of a million things. And I think if we all ask at the cash register, do not give me a plastic bag, or if we all tell the people working in the counters, don't put plastic forks in my bag. That's the way at a grassroots level we begin to change behavior, and it gets management's attention because not a lot of people are doing it. And when the counter people start to say, I'm getting a lot of people telling me don't use a plastic cup, it begins to have an impact.
John, I said that Michael would be the last person, but you've got a minute or two. Go ahead before we move on.
And I know this isn't the right group, but the Dallas Car Show is going on this weekend, and there's a huge group. There's a huge selection of EVs that are there. And so if anybody's got time to go today or tomorrow, I'd highly suggest they go and look at what's available. And the costs of the vehicles have come down, but they're still, I think they're still too expensive right now. So anyway, thank you. I'm sorry, I just put that in.
Thank you, John. Lauren, there's clearly a lot of interest and excitement about plastic. and what to do about it. So thank you for coordinating that. We have Leah March chomping at the bit to talk about the Youth Working Group podcast. Welcome, Leah.
Hi guys. It's been a while. I haven't seen you guys for a while. If you're new, I'm so happy the chapter is still growing. I was the chair before summer last year. But today I'm gonna talk about the Youth Working Group's podcast a little bit. And so just to give you guys a little bit of context, in 2020 and 2021, we had a really functional and well-run youth working group. They started an initiative making a podcast to give career advice to, younger people who wants to center their career path or, whatever they're studying around environmental studies and contributing to the climate movement. And as we all know, youth and young professional working group usually have an expiration date, and ours did as well. They went to college, they went to grad school. And so after releasing 4 episodes, the podcast just was paused, right? And so I was one of the people Richard mentioned that fled to Oregon last year. I didn't flee, but anyways, so when I moved, I thought about other ways to support the chapter. And so the podcast was the project I picked on since as the chair, I talked to a lot of people and I want to know people's climate story. And I thought that would be one way for me to support a chapter. And my plan right now is to relaunch the podcast in late March or April, depending on what I can do in the next 4 weeks. So the plan was to have 10 episodes for the first season. Because the lesson I learned and the youth working group learned was that if we only do 1 episode and release that, we don't have anything in the pipeline. And so I'm at my 9th speaker right now. So I'm really doing this and I need your help. Not in terms of, inviting guests and recruiting and stuff like that, but promoting it. And so if you're interested in what I'm doing for the chapter right now, most of the speakers or guests I'm interviewing are climate reality leaders from all over the country. Some of them are not, but they have built a meaningful path in any career field or work field, contributing directly to the climate movement. So if you want to help me with promoting it, I need to come up with a plan of how to promote that. Please send me an email. It's not going to take a lot of your time. I do a lot of the editing, and it's like my eyes are at the end of the days are usually really sore. But yeah, anyways, and I want to talk about the podcast just quickly for 2 minutes. So when the podcast first started, it was a career advice podcast, right? But then they put in a lot of the climate story of people. So when I took over, I kind of expand that a little bit and kind of tying that back to what Beth said earlier about honoring human beings in the climate movement as well. And I think for me, my theory of change is that, and I talked to a lot of the people in the Climate Reality Project in Las Vegas last year in the training, was that the gap between knowing what's happening and taking action is not more knowledge. It's actually how we connect with each other. And the piece in that is telling each other's story. And so the podcast right now is focusing on people's journey and people's path, and also their vision for the future. Because I think we as human beings, if we don't see what is ahead, we're not going to make sure that we do our best and make the effort, right? How do we persuade people that the effort is actually enough for us to make the effort, right? So story, vision of the future, and what they're working on. So that's the 3 chunks of the podcast. So I'm gonna put my info in the chat. Many of you already have that, but if you don't, here is my info. And I also will put a link of the podcast. It's called The Green Path, singular, green path, because we're all on the same path, right? So I changed it up a little bit for those of you who are familiar with the podcast from 2 years ago. So there are 4 episodes in there made from Vanessa and Ishrita 2 years ago. So if you haven't listened to those, please do that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Leah. It's good to hear from you again. Our last work group update is Molly Rook going to be talking about the Energy Working Group, particularly the Greening Dallas ISD project. So Molly, you have the floor.
All right, well, thank you. When I started leading the Energy Working Group as its interim chair, with the Dallas ISD project as our first thing, I knew I was stretched too thin already, and that's why I said interim. And so unfortunately, over the last several months, I have been stretched even more thin, and it caused a pause in the group. So apologies for that. And to be more effective and responsive, there is a need for more ongoing assistance and a co-chair. If anyone would be willing to step forward, we could talk about what that could include. And I'm flexible. Anyone who could help with that, I'm sure we could work out a way to do that. And those who have been helping on the Greening Dallas ISD website and other assistance, I will soon get back to you with what we I think would be good to do to move forward now and to set up a meeting soon. And I encourage all who are interested in getting schools to be greener, including renewable energy with on-site solar and electric school buses, please get in touch. And we'll try to come up with a time that is best for everyone. I know it's challenging. There's so many meetings, and you know, some meeting times work for us, others, but not for everyone. So we'll just see what we can do on that. But just to give you an update, things have not stopped happening, even though we've not been having meetings so much. I've been continuing to work on the projects at Dallas ISD to move things forward. And I know lots of you already know this, but because of much pressure over the past several years, including petition signing from many of you, and the awarding of $7.1 million from the EPA as a rebate program through the federal bipartisan infrastructure law, Dallas ISD is moving forward with the free assistance from the World Resources Institute staff from the Electric School Bus Initiative, helping to plan the purchase of around 25 electric school buses and charging infrastructure. So this is a huge accomplishment. So that order has to be put in April. So they want to make sure they have everything right. They're planning to buy and use bi-directional charging capable buses to allow them to have more energy resilience, but to also reduce electricity costs, as they can sell some of that stored energy in the bus batteries back to the grid when not needed for transportation. And it's this money generating and money saving part of the electric school buses, which seems to be the most appealing part of this effort to many in the DISD administration. So whatever way we can get their interest, whether it's saving the green bucks or you know, those who actually care about equity and about a livable planet and future for the students, we just need to keep putting the pressure on there. Unfortunately, the part that we had started with trying to get solar on the schools is still not really moving forward, although it looked really hopeful not long ago. And there's still hope for that. So what happened recently is also because of the infrastructure bill, there's so much money that's available to schools from that infrastructure bill, and will also be available from the Inflation Reduction Act. But anyway, there was a Department of Energy money through a program called Renew America School. And this money was available for innovative energy technology packages at K through 12 schools. That was something that the Dallas ISD sustainability manager put together. Also, again, with the World Resources Institute, they put together an excellent concept paper that they were going to propose to the DOE. And they had to send it up to the chain for a higher ups at Dallas ISD to approve their application for funds. And the funds are substantial. The DOE was going to be giving grants from $500,000 to $15 million per project. And so this plan would have included on-site solar energy storage and EV charging at a Dallas ISD school for resiliency and a demonstration project, but it's not been made clear to me yet who denied it and why. I do know, and this could have been a factor, this proposal was put out over the holidays, and there wasn't a very long timeline. And I don't know what more was a problem with that. But so we need to keep pushing and putting more pressure on for on-site solar. Another upsetting thing is that there some of the new schools that were just finished, including the ones that were 3 of the buildings that were torn up by the tornado years ago. It was the hope that they would be net zero and have on-site solar. And so 2 of those schools had a ribbon cutting just a week ago today. And I had a volunteer attend, and no solar panels. And the new elementary school that was built from completely from the ground up, brand new, it's supposed to be highly energy efficient, and they did leave space for, I guess, the inverter, and I don't know how much space they might have left for some storage, but they did build a roof that's capable of supporting solar panels, but they did not put any solar panels on. So it is not net zero, but it may be net zero ready, but I'm not sure even of that. It didn't look like they had overhangs or things like that. But the point is, Dallas ISD is behind other school districts like Irving and Coppell, who have net zero school. And so we've got to put more pressure on them to do that. And so anyway, that's where we are. And so if you're interested in helping, especially if you're a teacher or former teacher or student or have a student or involved in a PTA, anything like that, or just interested, want to help, or maybe you are good at conducting a Zoom meeting, just whatever. I can use whatever help you're willing to provide. So thank you.
Molly, there's a couple of questions. Michael Martin and Michael Lynn. I think John's hand was up from before.
Okay.
Oh, Michael, why don't you ask?
Sure.
Michael
Yeah.
Martin.
Hey, hi, Molly. Real quick, is the key leadership group here the superintendent and that team, or the board? Because clearly they just don't want to do this yet. And to me, it seems until they decide this is where we're going, detailed statistics don't matter. They've got to commit in terms of a direction, long-term strategy. Who is that, Molly? Because I don't know the political play or the power play within DISD. If you could just comment real quickly. Thank you.
Sure. It looks to me, and from my discussion with Ben Mackey, who's the trustee I represent on the Sustainability Committee. He believes that the trustees support this, but I don't think that the staff really understands what that means. You know, I think what they said, about this, the new schools or the refurbished, renovated schools, that they felt that they were following by doing the CHIPS standard rather than actually doing net zero ready, that they were doing what was kind of in line with what the resolution said. So I think there is a little bit of misunderstanding about what level we're looking at to really make a difference. So there's that. So I think putting pressure on the trustees is still very important, because, and I did talk to Superintendent Stephanie Elizalde, and she said that she is supportive. She used to be the superintendent at Austin ISD, so that's a good thing. Yeah. So she's strongly supportive of sustainable construction and all that, but I think there's just a misunderstanding on their part what that really needs to include. I also think one of the biggest problems may be in the construction department and in bonds, because it looks like it's very poorly defined exactly what they're going to do at the schools. And even if you go to the meetings about the building of a specific school, they're very vague about what they're going to do until it's done. So I think putting pressure on the trustees, communicating more, if possible, with the construction bond department to try to get them to say what they're going to do and why they're not going to do more. And there's a weird thing I've been seeing that is deeply concerning regards the bond on the bonds, is that they had said that there would be money in there for new construction for green initiatives, but it was never laid out. And so I don't know how much they're planning on that per each school and how that's going to work. And the fact that they didn't take this opportunity to get grant money. I mean, you could take the grant money and put it on top of the bond money and get to where you need to be on a net zero school. The schools that have done that, they basically use grants to get them to the rest of the way. But there's money that it looks like in an article that I saw on the website that they're going to be putting new, they're calling it turf, but it is artificial turf at schools. And yet the bond package for that failed. It was included athletic fields and new stadiums and new natatorium, and that failed. So to see that they're talking about that in part of their construction stuff they're touting, I just wonder what they're doing. So anyway, sorry for the long answer. Does that answer it enough or too much? Okay.
Thanks, Mai. Sorry, I'm just looking for my mute unclick. No, thank you. That's great. We'll talk further later. Appreciate it.
Sure.
And your for sure.
Sure.
Michael Lynn?
Yeah, I was going to say, Molly, my experience with this is that generally the engineers and architects, the technical staff people, do not understand how to do it. And just like the problem with me trying to get them to use electric blowers, the landscaping people here just don't understand it. And you're going to have to present them with facts. I would be happy if you would like to talk to the technical people. And I did win the Global First Place Technology Award for heating and cooling education buildings. So there is a way to do it. It's not quite what you've described. They should have used lower energy use heating and cooling. That brings down the solar expense, which brings down the overall energy use of the building. But if you want to set up an actual conversation about how do you really do this, and the example school that we built is with it is a front page article on the ASHRAE Journal. Be glad to give them the article and sit down with them and say, this is the way you do it and make it cost effective. It does not require grants to make this cost effective.
Yes, that would be great. I know that it doesn't require grants, but that seems like that's what gets them going. It's what got them going on the school buses.
But it's because they don't understand the long-term advantage of it.
Absolutely.
Molly, I'll send you the article and you can share it with them.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Molly. Okay, so we're down to our announcements next. And there's a couple of links in the agenda. I'll just post the links for each of these events. I have three things to talk about. First is Oak Cliff Earth Day, which is April 16th. We need volunteers to staff our booth. We did this last year. We had a marvelous time, and I think we connected with a lot of people. This is a Sunday, so it's from 12 to 5, Oak Cliff Earth Day. It's quite popular. It's a fairly big Earth Day celebration. Hopefully the weather is good. It was great last year, perhaps a little sunny. If anybody has a tent sort of enclosure, we need one of those, or we may need to buy one of those because it was very sunny last year. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, Leah, you can come from Portland to help. We'd love to have you.
Can you guys fundraise my flight? No, I'm just kidding.
We'll put that on the fundraising list. Okay, so I'm going to put that the link in chat. This is for volunteering. I have a sign-up sheet, a form for Oak Cliff Earth Day. So I think we split the day in half and have 2 sets of shifts. If you can help with that, it would be greatly appreciated. The other thing is significant too. It's EarthX. We have a booth at EarthX this year, which will be at Fair Park. It's April 21st to 23rd, covering Earth Day. We're going to need a lot of volunteers to help with that because we've got 3 full days of activity. We spoke to a lot of people last year, and I think we had quite a bit of influence and impact. A couple of us are going to be speaking at EarthX. So that's good too. There's some wonderful speakers. So please sign up for that. I'll copy the hyperlink and paste that into chat. So that's for Earth Day, EarthX, I should say. Then the final announcement is not particularly an event, but it relates to our meetings. We're obviously having our meetings on Saturday morning at 10. And I've had a poll that went out in at least 1 or 2 of the newsletters, and I'm putting it in chat. So far, the poll has really endorsed Saturday morning at 10 a.m. That's kind of the most popular time, which I guess is good. We're looking at ways to get more of the membership at the meetings, but certainly live events like our Oak Cliff Earth Day and EarthX are opportunities for that. So, whoops, it looks like I'm sending messages not to everybody, but to Michael Lynn somehow. So I will put the links again in chat, maybe while Jeffrey's reading us the closing poem. But those are the two events: Oak Cliff Earth Day, EarthX, Fair Park. We're going to have an inside booth, and then I'll put a link to the survey. And so are there any questions about any of those activities?
No questions. Your links did go through the first two to everybody. And it is actually a lot of fun to like man these booths. I was at both events last year. Leading up to EarthX, I was very skeptical. I was probably the dominant voice saying, well, why do we need to do this? I went, I'm on board. Like it's a great way to network, to get fresh ideas, to meet new people, to connect with other people who are working on this. So please, if you have some time, no matter how much time, consider manning one of these booths.
Good, thank you, Simon. And I put the link, I guess that was missing, to the best day and time to meet survey. If you haven't taken that yet, that was the last link that I put in. So any other questions or comments about those activities? Good. Well, I think we're ready to wrap up a little bit early, which is always good. I think shorter meetings are better than longer meetings usually. Okay, we're getting some volunteers through chat. That's great. And I'll make sure to save the chat and get you on the list. Thank you, Patricio. Okay, so we're ready to close. And Jeffrey, I think you have a poem that you'd like to share with us.
Yes, and before I do that, I do want to briefly mention that the community building self-care group is moving towards doing some in-person live listening circles. But in order, I can organize that over here on the Fort Worth side of things. But I need a volunteer to host listening circle over on the Dallas side of things. So I put my email earlier in the chat. If you can send me an email to volunteer to host a listening circle, time and date to be arranged, please do so.
I'm sorry, Jeffrey, that I skipped over that agenda item in the work group updates. Is there any other work group updates you'd like to provide?
Well, I am hoping that Leah is still here, and she had offered back in December or January a yoga through a different website. And I'm hoping that she will also be offering yoga for the Climate Reality Group. And we'll have more information on that as I get that confirmed by her, unless she wants to speak up right now.
Sure. As I mentioned, I'm involved in the Portland chapter. I'm actually the communication chair here. But since I love you guys a lot, if you guys just joined, please excuse my anyways. So yeah, I'm just trying to find ways to continue to support you guys from afar. And so as Jeffrey mentioned, for the past 2 years, I've been teaching yoga to the chapter remotely on Zoom on weekends. I could not fit that into my schedule anymore. So instead of that, I am doing probably like I would say bi-weekly yoga on the app called Insight Timer. If you have not checked that out, it's a free meditation app. It's awesome. I use that to meditate myself, and everything on there is free. And so I would encourage you to go to Insight Timer, follow me there. I do offer free classes live there as well. Or you can always send me an email if there's any, other requests and need. And that's how I'm going to support you guys moving forward in terms of, mindfulness. Just to briefly mention, in the Las Vegas training in June, I led the meditation and part of the yoga program for the entire training program. And so I'm pretty experienced in this. And if you do have any requests, let me know. And the app is called Insight Timer. You can find me there, Insight Timer.
Thank you, Leah. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No.
All right. To close us today, this is a poem by Adrienne Rich that was that I think I got from the All You Can Save network, called "What Kind of Times Are These?" There's a place between two stands of trees where the grass grows uphill and the old revolutionary road breaks off into shadows near a meeting house abandoned by the persecuted who disappeared into those shadows. I've walked there, picking mushrooms at the edge of dread. But don't be fooled. This isn't a Russian poem. This is not somewhere else but here, our country, moving closer to its own truth and dread, its own ways of making people disappear. I won't tell you where the place is, the dark mesh of the woods meeting the unmarked strip of light, ghost-ridden crossroads, leaf mold paradise. I know already who wants to buy it, sell it, make it disappear. And I won't tell you where it is. So why do I tell you anything? Because you still listen. Because in times like these, to have you listen at all, it's necessary to talk about trees. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Good. Well, we are through our agenda, and so we can adjourn our meeting. If you had any questions or comments or complaints, a few of us will stay on for a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes or so, and we'd be happy to talk to you. I'll turn the recording off. And